Ross, I just saw a massive orb go past you then. The room you're in is so obviously haunted. It was enormous.
It's probably that's why I brought that thing back from the prison. That's probably what came with that, didn't
it? Yeah. Did we still do a pre-title sequence where we talk about Jimmy Savile or something?
What do you mean you don't listen to every episode, John?
I try to. I don't think you realise how busy I am, please.
Britain. An ancient kingdom with legends of violence, cruelty, and torment in its blood. Join your hosts, Ross, John, and James, as they bravely tread where few would dare. Witness their journey into the horrific history of British horror. They are the General Witchfinders.
Ladies and gentlemen, goblins and ghouls, welcome back to the 19th episode of the General Witchfinders podcast. I'm James in Bournemouth in southern England.
I'm John Pountney in South Wales, which is in the south of Wales.
I'm Ross in Dorchester, near the abandoned Dorchester prison in southern England. And today, this episode, we cover the Reptile.
In this remote little country village, the mortal remains of a man are laid to rest.
Who is it this time, Peter? It's Mr. Spalding. They found him this morning. Just like the others.
Just like the others, he died in the night. Get away from there! Get away! Suddenly, violently, horribly.
This is an evil place. Corrupt and evil.
Evil, as venomous as a snake, turns the quiet of this village into a writhing hell on earth, where every man fears for his safety and his sanity, where everyone is suspect.
What do you mean they died by some sort of magic, some witchcraft? For the first time in my life, I'm frightened.
Everyone is frightened. The doctor who'd lived his life in the East, this man who could be the next victim, this woman and this girl are frightened, hypnotized by the crawling, creeping spell of the reptile.
Stop! Pack your things, we're leaving.
No, Dr. Franklyn. You are not leaving.
I could kill you.
Possibly. But you could never be free then, could you? And what would happen to little Anna then?
Trapped like animals in a cage and getting closer and closer, suffocating them with terror. The reptile.
Starring Noel Willman, Ray Barrett, Jennifer Daniel, and Jacqueline Servalan Pearce. The Reptile is based in the fictional village of Clagmoor Heath in Cornwall, where several locals are dying from what is deemed to be the Black Death. Harry Spalding inherits his late brother Charles's cottage and arrives with his new bride, Valerie. The inhabitants of the village keep clear of the couple, and only the publican, Tom Bailey, befriends them. Tom explains that the hostility exhibited by the townspeople is the result of many mysterious deaths in the community. The sinister Dr. Franklyn, the owner of the nearby well house, is the only resident in the vicinity of the cottage, and he lives with his daughter Anna and her menagerie of pets. Franklyn treats Anna with cruel contempt, and she is attended by a silent Malay servant. The production was filmed back-to-back with The Plague of Zombies and used many of the same sets, including exterior shots in the grounds of Oakley Court near Bray, Berkshire. Scene burning in the final frames. Spoiler alert. As documented in books on Hammer's film history, Jacqueline Pearce disliked wearing the infamous reptile makeup, spoiler, as she suffered from claustrophobia. After this film, she vowed never to wear creature makeup in her future acting projects. The film was released in 1966 and in some markets was shown as a double feature with Rasputin the Mad Monk.
There's so much joy in all the names that you're regaling us with there, James. I nearly called you John then.
That's all right. I thought you was going to call him George, but
all of our listeners, I'm very tired. I didn't get to sleep till 8 a.m. through chronic illness today.
So please send us money on Patreon to
keep me alive.
To keep John alive. He needs more whisper bites.
I do love to hear of Plague of the Zombies, which is probably my favourite Hammer film. I do like to hear of film titles like Rasputin, The Mad Monk. What else do I like to hear of? Bray Studios. This is my joyous purple patch.
Unlike the wet patch in the house of Ghostwatch.
Well, to get into it, my first observation was the fact that it says, it's 86 minutes, and I've written good. Get in, get out, get done.
Enough of this shit.
This doesn't need to be The Godfather Part 2. Right, let's just go, let's get in and let's get this on. And then my next words I've just written, yikes. Because it's quite like a, as we saw with films of the time, with Quatermass 2, it just starts. Bang!
Yeah.
You're straight, whoa, we're underway. And as we see the poor brother who kind of turns up at this house, knocks on the door, and is kind of attacked by a figure that we can't, after being told, don't go near that door, by my favourite character, the Doctor. More on him. He's an absolute bitch. He's amazing. He's my favourite character in this film by miles.
The highest camp that Hammer ever did, I think.
We do see a recurring theme of people just walking into other people's houses. With no care at all whether they're invited.
And people that lock one door but don't lock the other door.
Yeah.
It's a house with two doors. I'm only going to lock one door. The other one can stay open. What I loved about the opening is that the font is great, but it also gives a very kind of bad Kitty. Kitty's just sat staring at me because she
knows
wants to come in here and sleep on the bed. I might have to take a picture to send to you. Hang on. You'll have to edit this out, but hang on. Wait there.
This is the gold people want.
Oh, she's just gone now. So what was I going to say? So basically the bit where the guy is walking across this heath, this heathland in Cornwall, which is really Berkshire or somewhere, isn't it? In both parts, it's like a day for night scene, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can see the shadow of the crew, like really blatantly. You can see the shadow of this kind of oppressive figure, which is the Malay, whatever. What is Malay now? Is that Malaysia? We should have looked this up, shouldn't we?
Yes.
So you've got the sinister South Asian figure, haven't you? Who's the kind of totemic baddie of this film. So you've got his shadow, but you've also got the shadow of like two men next to a camera, which is really obvious. I think that gives a false representation of the film, because I think the rest of the film is very carefully put together, and for a B movie is really, really good. It whips through. Not one scene is flim flam, and I could spend a lot longer with these characters. And a bit like Plague of the Zombies, not just Plague. You can't have a plague of a single zombie. A bit like Plague of the Zombies, I could spend more time with these characters, and I wish they'd expanded upon this as a sequel, because I'd like to see the couple in this film go and solve more mysteries in a kind of...
This is one of the iconic Hammer monsters, isn't it? Like, when I've got that amazing Hammer board game, which our listener Gareth gave me with all the little figures in there, and it's got the reptile figure in there.
When you say our listener, we have more than one listener.
One of our listeners, our plague of listener. What's to say? Yeah, also in my horror top trumps from the 70s has got the reptile in there as well. So it's an iconic character, and I that's why I thought, maybe we should watch this. So I popped it up on Twitter, and the other two listeners of ours said yes, we should watch that as well. So I was really intrigued to see what this was about, and it is interesting that it was only in one film, because it does feel like it's probably the only iconic original monster, whereas, you know, the Dracula and Frankenstein, even though they had their own, particularly their own look on some of those things, it's the one they kind of created for themselves.
I think you might be right. That's a very good point, Cleves, actually, thinking about it. They did try and kind of recreate all of the kind of iconic universal creatures or monsters. But I think the only one that's really original is this one, actually. But they did, and likewise with Plague of the Zombies, that's really the first zombie film that is like resurrected corpses coming out the ground and coming out of graves and stuff. So I think both films really did, and the screenplay is by John Elder, I noticed. So maybe Mr. Elder should take some credit for the...
do something different. And also, it hasn't got Christopher Lee or Peter Cushing in.
No, it hasn't. Neither of them do. And Plague of the Zombies was the B movie to Dracula, Prince of Darkness, which obviously had Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee didn't speak in that film. Yeah. Dracula has no dialogue in the entire film.
His presence alone.
Is just bizarre when you watch it.
Again, him doing the minimum he possibly could.
Yeah. But I think a lot of the sets on this are kind of redressed. The house of Noel Willman, Dr. What's he called?
Vibes?
No.
Dr. Franklyn.
The house of Dr. Franklyn, to me, looks a lot like a redressed Castle Dracula from Plague.
Yeah.
No. What the fuck is it called? Edit this bit out, please.
Nope.
The Castle Dracula. No. The House of Dr. Franklyn looks a lot like a redressed set of Castle Dracula. From Dracula. Crassel. Dr. Crassel, Prince of Darkness. Roy Crassel isn't in any of these films, sadly.
Unfortunately.
Shall I try and do all that line again?
No, not at all. I think you nailed it. No one would notice.
No one knows. I've only had an hour's sleep.
So following the death of this unfortunate man at the start, we then cut to his funeral, and amazing in this Cornish village. First of all,
it's quite a lo-fi funeral.
Oh, that's exactly what I've put. I've put basically it's Tesco value internments, really, isn't it? I thought that, and the actual words, very no nonsense funeral. I've written on which we get a couple of times. I know that they're saying that there's a lot of people dying of mysterious causes, but there is very much a kind of that'll do. Get him in the ground, get him buried, minimal headstone. Yeah. Let's get down the pub.
It's one of these funerals that you see advertised on like cable TV these days now, where an old person comes on and says, I don't want my family to waste all their money on my funeral. I just want to be shoved in the ground. And then it's just like,
my parents have both told me that that's exactly what they're having. And my mum's got an ad for it pinned up on her pinboard in the kitchen. Right, I said it's... it's one of them.
That's a nice reminder.
I know. I'll send a picture next time around.
It's very atmospheric, though. I think we're kind of downplaying that it does already look quite good, this film. The setting is good. The production design, Bernard Robinson is good.
Well, the house is way better than Frankenstein's house, which we saw in the Curse of Frankenstein. Which was
It's obvious they've had... At this point, Hammer had quite a lot of American money, and I think that they were really like under the cudgel to make films, and it was like, you've got to make this film, you've got to make this film, got to make this film, and the amount of films they were making at this point, really, for the quality that they are, like, fair play to them, because they were literally like, it was a production line at this point, because they were making so many films, and I think this one
would have loved to work there then, wouldn't you?
Oh my God, I would have loved to have worked there at this point. Like, Jesus Christ, yeah. They were so busy, and they just, I think all the way up to 1971, 72, I think they were making really good stuff. I think after that, it all went a bit bits up. But, they made some really crap films, but they also made some really amazingly good films as well. That we're talking about here tonight.
Have I mentioned one of my favourite unmade Hammer films on this podcast before?
An unmade Hammer film?
Yes, right. Back during my tenure working in Borders Bookshop in the early noughties, when I was a postgraduate student, there was a really good series of film books that came out, which are like smaller press, but they're fantastic. And for the more sort of esoteric, not the more predictable things that you'd expect film criticism to be on. And one of the best ones was a book that was like the history of Hammer. It will probably cost an absolute load now to get. But in the back, they've got a list of films that were on Hammer's slate when they got shut down that never got made.
Oh, no way.
The two that I can always remember is number 1, Zeppelins versus Pterodactyls. Who wouldn't want to see that? Amazing. And the other one was Alan Quatermain, Esquire, His Quest for the Holy Flower. Which I think maybe didn't quite have the oomph.
Yes.
I found them online. Nessie. They were going to do a Loch Ness Monster
there
film.
You go.
Yeah. Cow Devil Bride of Dracula, which is going to be like an Indian sort of exploitation one. Or Carly. Carly Devil
Carol.
Bride of Dracula. Yeah.
Carol, get the car defrosted. I mean, it's terrible.
Yes, you're right. Zeppelin versus Pterodactyls.
Yes.
Amazing.
The Vampire Virgins.
No
surprise. Vlad the Impaler.
Theme. Yeah.
Victims of His Imagination.
Ooh.
Which is going to be a biopic of Bram Stoker. Vampirella.
God, I'll tell you what, the well was getting pretty dry, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yes.
The Haunting of Toby Jug. Which is
that's a great title.
A recently paralysed World War II airman is taken to a Welsh castle to recuperate with an old family friend. Once there, Toby is haunted by visions of a terrifying arachnid creature and begins to fear for his sanity.
We ought to make this.
This sounds amazing.
I imagine the right
sounds amazing.
Until his host is revealed to be a member of a satanic brotherhood who intends to cheat Toby out of his inheritance.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This sounds great.
We're going to crowdfund this.
Yeah. Mistress of the Seas, which looks like a biopic of Irish pirate Anne Bonny.
Okay. Expensive though.
Shaka Zulu.
Yeah. I think that got made in the end.
Yeah. There we go. That's it. Yeah, those are the 10 unmade.
Would any of these have starred Ringo Starr, do you think?
There's still time.
Yeah. Ringo Starr is Toby Jug. In a wheelchair. Just like, hey, peace, love, light and peace, guys.
Just a quick aside. John, have you seen any of the Beatles Get Back yet?
I haven't, because I don't have Disney, whatever it is. But I'm enjoying everyone on Twitter being like, wow, the Beatles are a really good band, aren't they? And it's like...
one of the... Because obviously it's very unexpurgated, you know, this is the thing. It's long. But just the thing at the start is when they're all kind of assembling in this studio, they say that it's while Ringo was doing the Magic Christian. And while they're just there going like, right, let's start jamming and let's get into this. They're going to Ringo... Do you want to come and look at some of the sets next door for the film? And he's like, he just can't be asked at all. He's like, whatever.
It's crazy, isn't it? That none of them were even 30 at this point.
Absolutely nuts.
It's just mad that, like, the biggest band in the world were just like these guys that were just sat in this place. And everyone's going on about on Twitter, like, all they're doing is like eating toast and drinking tea and stuff. But
that's what they did. Yeah.
That's all they did, really.
But anyway, sorry, we've gone off feed. We've gone off feed. Let's get back into it. Sorry. So
I would say the first thing that that strikes me about the start is the quintessence of Hammer films in the 60s is how much they turn up someone's footsteps to give a sound of trepidation.
Gravel.
Click, 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 click. And then so the guy is bitten, he's dead. He goes black and green in the face. Like, not very pleasant, is it?
In seconds.
He's got a bit of shaving foam sprayed on his mouth. And then we find out, I think, that we're in the seaside then, because you can hear seagulls, can't you? You never see anything beyond,
you don't see the ocean at any point.
You don't see the sea at all. You hear some seagulls and that's it. And we're greeted by John Laurie.
Yes!
From... star of TV's Dad's Army and lots of other things. I can't remember what's his character's name.
Fraser.
Yes, the Private Fraser.
We should point out for any non-American, I can't believe there are any. Are there any non-English or non-British subscribers? Yeah. Wow, there you go. Right, okay. For the benefit of you people, there is a British sitcom called Dad's Army, which is absolutely part of kind of British cultural DNA. It was like it was being repeated when we were kids and teenagers.
It's being repeated now.
It continues to be repeated to this day. And it's set during World War II amongst a hapless kind of home guard. So basically the guys who were too old to fight in World War II, or, you know, kind of not able to fight for whatever spurious medical reasons, and their wacky adventures.
Us now.
Yes, us. Yes. Right? And one of them is an old Scotsman called Private Fraser, who has wild eyes, just like he does in this film. And whenever anything, even, you know, whatever they're up to that week, you know, having to do something, so, you know, having
someone's attached to a barrage balloon,
balloon, or organising a church fair for the Women's Institute, something like that. Fraser will declare, "We're doomed. Oh, hey, we're doomed. Oh, this happened to me when I was..." Right, so he is kind of like one of the 3 Scottish archetypes that non-Scots have.
Yeah.
In this country.
And he had a very, very long and quite distinguished career. Yes. And then I think he felt that Dad's Army was quite beneath him.
Yeah.
I don't know what he felt about this film. He kind of steals the film. He's only in it for the first half an hour as Mad Tom, is it?
Well, and he goes, "But I'm not mad at you, You are.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not mad. I just don't conform, I think he says at one point. Yeah. Mad Peter, he's called, not Mad Tom. So he pops up, and then we're greeted by Michael Ripper, who is a stalwart of Hammer Films, who is the pub landlord.
He's brilliant.
Who, due to the new print that I'm seeing for the first time, I've realised that as he's rinsing his pub's steps, he's using a plastic bucket. Which I don't think was available in Victorian Britain.
Yeah, with a very obviously stuck on beard as well.
Yeah. A lot of great facial hair.
Which is amazing.
A lot of great facial hair in this film.
Like, there is. It's just great to rewatch these films and see new stuff in them, because when we were growing up and we were watching films like this, we were watching them on impossibly low resolution VHS films that you can't even imagine watching anything on something that looks this shit now.
And on very small screens as well.
On very small screens, yes.
Yeah, so, and probably cut up as well. So not widescreen.
Oh yeah, panned and scanned, isn't it? Is that what it's called? So there's talk of another dead body, and it's obvious that there's this thing, you know, going around this village. So that's quite. The whole start of it, which we've talked about for 40 minutes and lasts about for 5 seconds, is basically very Conan Doyle, isn't it? It's a very kind of Conan Doyle, Victoriana. Yeah. It's Cornwall. I thought that I would try and make the case for this to be a Christmas film tonight. But as soon as it was shot in like really bright sunshine in the middle of summer, it looks like I'm not going to try and do that anymore. But
and often they were trying to make out that was nighttime as well, but it was
broad daylight is nighttime.
Just to answer your question, 73% of our listeners are from the United Kingdom.
Okay, that's cool.
Oh, right.
Okay. 14% are from the United States.
Wow.
6% are from Belgium, but I think that might be spurious.
One person moving around.
A shocking accusation on the Benelux regions, Ross.
Because we had loads of downloads on one day from Belgium, and I think that was wrong. And then Italy, and we were in the top 10 of the Italian film history podcast.
Wow, that's brilliant.
That's amazing.
That's a lot of countries that I like.
To our Italian friends.
Yeah, love Italy.
I've been to Italy many times.
It's great. Thumbs up to Italy from us.
There's lots of Italians in Wales.
Some of my best friends are Italian.
That's true.
Yes. There are Fulgonis. Spend a lot of time in Fulgonis in Portugal. So then we hear about the will of the dead man.
Fantastic.
So we cut to a very kind of classically written scene where the solicitor is a bit of a busybody.
He is. And
but very well played. I like.
Very well played. For
so
one
much
scene,
to that.
Yeah, because now we are introduced to our protagonist, who's the brother of the man who's just died. and he's holding the biggest satchel I've ever seen in my life.
With his name on.
Yeah, you could hide children in this thing. So I thought, how big are those legal papers? He's like, ha, ha, ha. And holding it across his lap.
Straight away, we're into a classic British 1960 scenario where the pin-up hero of the film is a man who looks about 50, who is actually 38 at this point.
Yeah, hideously
acne scarred. And also the man that did the voices of the Thunderbirds.
Really?
Which I found from...
that's good.
And recently as well. He's done it in the 2015 remake.
Still going?
Yeah.
Wow.
He can't be still alive.
Yeah. It was IMDb.
Well, hang on. Given our podcast, we might see him off.
Surely they copied and pasted that, Cleves. What is he called? I can't remember. I can't be bothered to look.
Noel Willman or Ray Barrett.
He's Ray Barrett. Ray, if you're listening, you're probably about 100 years old now. Well done for still being alive. So that's a great scene. We're introduced to our protagonist. He's got a very attractive wife. She's the classic Hammer kind of wife. She basically later on says that she can't hang around in the pub because she's got to go home and make his dinner. Which really made me laugh. So they basically turn up in the village.
Oh, before that, they've told him congratulations, your brother's dead, and they all shake hands.
So he's basically inherited a cottage. He quibbles about the cause of death, and he's told that his brother has died of a heart failure, which he says is impossible because he's as strong as I am.
He said he's as strong as an ox.
Yes, so
and then the lawyer responds.
The intimation,
even an ox's heart fails eventually, and I've just written down, "Fuck you." That's right. I don't care that you think that he's as strong as an ox. Up yours, mate. He's dead.
Boomer.
Deal with that.
It was one of those things. What's the address? And it's basically, it's so-and-so cottage,
Cornwall. Make your own way down there.
Yeah, but back then.
Probably could have.
I was watching a
Clagmoor.
Yeah, Clagmoor. But I was watching a House of Hammer today. The twin face of evil.
Oh, amazing!
Time well spent. Yep.
Yeah, but again, there was a bit in there when the son was reading the map, and I was just thinking it was.
Is that the one with the bad fingernail?
Yeah.
It's an absolute masterpiece.
It's actually quite. I was all the way through thinking, I know what's going to happen on this. And they said, I didn't expect that to happen.
No.
Yeah, so that was good.
The bit where they're in the car and they're trying to get in the car and the kid is trying to get in. Oh, I'm shitting myself.
Yeah.
And then the ending in the ambulance. Oh my God, I fill my pants every time.
It's a good one.
It's a really good one.
But that and this film today, it's just like, before we had sat-navs, how on earth did anyone find anything?
Look on the map before you went. That's what my dad would do.
Yeah. So you've inherited a cottage. It's called Larkrise, Cornwall. Good luck. The end. So they go to a station. There's nobody at the station. Oh. I would have liked a bit more of a enlargement on this with a bit of more atmosphere, but basically there's no time for that because they go straight into the next scene.
I would like to see Steele there with a blinded soldier standing on the...
Well, my note was, I just want to point out, is that when they turn up at the train station, which is ostensibly supposed to be a Victorian train station, I've put, there is no set design whatsoever on that train station. That is what they all still look like now.
Yeah.
They had to do nothing to that train station. That's what Parkstone looks like down the road here. All they have to do is take a digital clock off and bang, that's it. So
the joy of being British is that the Victorians did everything properly, and that ever since no one has done anything properly. So we would still be living in caves if it wasn't for the Victorians. I live in a Victorian house, effectively.
This is Victorian.
Yeah, and if you live in a modern house, you'll have shit coming through your ceiling within 3 years because something will go wrong and your toilet will, back flush. So we're treated already to John Laurie comes out the pub ranting about something, buggers off then. And then we have the classic pub clearing scene where the guy goes in to introduce himself and all of these hello sailors get up and leave the pub. But then there's this weird thing where the wife doesn't seem to be able to go into the pub.
No.
So he leaves his wife
pub.
outside. Yeah.
There's not a snug.
He leaves his wife outside.
So therefore...
so he goes in, and basically all these whimsical sailors leave, don't they?
They do.
And he's left trying to explain himself to Michael Ripper. And
I have to point out, John, I put this is the jackpot line. This was just like, I can't believe they've actually said it. When he turns up, he said, they all leave when he comes and he says, "Oh, you've cleared out my pub," and he goes, I don't know what's the was it something that I did? And to which point the landlord then goes, "We don't like strangers in these parts." Yeah, something that you always say, when casting aspersions on anyone from the countryside. Far off coastal regions, or they don't like strangers in them parts.
They don't like strangers
and lo and behold, there it is. I thought, wow, I feel like I've uncovered, like a long, deep covered treasure. This was it. This is the genesis of that line. So anyway, thank you. I just wanted to say that. I just went, way when he said it.
It's a general Witchfinders bingo, isn't it? That we've had our first, they don't like strangers in these parts.
And people drinking out of tankards,
Yeah, and then he's given a pint, which looks like a pint of Tizer. It's got no head on it, and it's like bright on. Maybe it's Lucozade.
Cider. Yeah, I was about to say, yeah.
Oh, yeah. But imagine drinking a pint of Lucozade. You'd be off your tits, wouldn't you?
You did it every day at college.
Yeah.
And you
Look at me now.
You lived on Lucozade and Kit Kat.
Oh, I know. And Pano Chocolate.
Lovely.
The happy couple go to their pub. Not their pub, the cottage. And the writing of this film is constantly it's not surprising, but it's not totally lame either. So they go to their cottage. The guy mentions there's roses over the door. He's got a new bride. What could be better? They go in and they find that the cottage is been smashed. And it's like, whoa. What's happening? You actually don't find out, I don't think, why this has happened, do you?
No.
I commented, it looks like Oasis have been recording there. And then it's like their famous Rockfield Studios argument.
I was going to say, this is Rockfield, isn't it?
Who were the other band they were having like the war with? Who were recording at
the same time?
There's a really good documentary about Rockfield Studios. Have you seen it, John?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
I haven't seen it. But
it's good.
Friends of mine produced it.
I really enjoyed it. Yeah, but I can't remember, Ross.
I've never seen it yet. I've seen the start, I think, actually. But I thought it was dodgy you were there at the same time. Good enough for you. Good enough for you. It's good enough for you. So yeah.
It's the summer of 1996 all over again there for a minute.
Oh,
lovely.
I know, isn't it? Isn't it? Ba, 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 ba. They tidy up the house, and then there's another classic pub scene where the guy goes back to the pub and he's like, Look, boys, if you've got a problem with me, we'll sort it out.
Like men.
And we'll sort it out now.
What's it gone Welsh?
Doesn't matter, Ross.
I don't know. I just thought I'd do it in a Welsh accent. Thing is, boys, I don't want any trouble, all right? So he goes in and they all bugger off again because they all take offence to being told that they've smashed up his house. Thing is, you don't find out who smashed up his house. And then you've got this weird POV shot then of the cottage where the lady is, I think she's trying to do something with the, what do you call the thing? You've got the handle and the water comes out.
Water pump.
What's it called? Like the village?
Pump.
It's not pump, is it?
Water pump. We're all doing it. We're all doing the water pump.
The village, anyway, so she's doing that and there's a lurker in the bushes.
Yeah.
But it's it starts like a POV shot, so you think it's going to be, it's someone looking at her, but then the person that's looking at her is behind her. And I don't know if that's a deliberate kind of directorial flourish, or if it just works well and they didn't realise how well it worked. But it's the doctor, so the doctor is the man who we've seen at the start shouting, "Get away from the door!" So he's... You're a country boy, you know what a rat sounds like, don't you?
He's that character for this film. Yes, he plays that role.
He basically goes from
annoying
0 to 10.
Dick. Yeah.
We'll find out later
Why?
that he really doesn't like sitar music.
He likes it up to a certain speed, but if you go beyond that,
in many ways, he was like he was like the forerunner for punk. Like turning their backs on Ravi Shankar and
turn your back on psychedelia.
Exactly.
You're a country boy, you know what psychedelia sounds like. So then he mentions the house across the moor, which again is very Conan Doyle. It's shades of Hound of the Baskervilles and all that kind of thing. I read recently a very good Sherlock Holmes story set in Cornwall, which is about a kind of mystery death. Which is shades of this story, actually. So then we cut back to our hero, who is walking back across the moor after having it out with the boys in the pub. And for some reason, he's attacked by John Laurie.
Scottish assault. I've written, just bang, all of a sudden from out of nowhere.
Yeah, jumps out of a bush, attacks him, and then they end up kind of being pals.
Yeah.
And then our hero invites him to supper.
Come and hang out.
Which is,
Yeah.
If I'd left my wife, putting the house back together after it's been smashed up, while I go on the pub, then come back with a mad Scottish guy and make him...
Who had attempted to mug me.
Yeah, and say, feed him.
Now.
I'll be dead.
I think we get what is the only burp in a Hammer horror film. And I'm going to stick that claim out there. And listener, if you think that there's another burp in a Hammer horror film, can you please tweet us to our address, which is at General Witchfinders 1 or something?
General Witch 1.
General Witch 1.
General Witch 1. If you can at us at General Witch 1, then you can show us another burp in a Hammer horror film. I will send you an advent calendar by first class post. Yeah.
There we go.
So that's Mad Peter.
Mad Peter then tells us that this is an evil place that's been ruined by outsiders, he says. And I just thought that's exactly
corrupt and evil.
And that's exactly like what the Cornish say about Cornwall now, isn't it? Like people have come in and brought second homes. Outsiders have come and ruined the place. And I was like, well, nothing really changes, does it?
They don't mind us paying 20 quid to park in a car park. They do that.
Oh, shit. I know a lot of Cornish people and they're very nice people.
So after this, he then makes his way out for the night, doesn't he? But then the wife is like, something's up.
This is where it all starts to kick off for me, and it goes really well. It goes really well now.
And suddenly there's sort of like the jump scare because the wife looks out the kitchen window only to be confronted by the wild eyes of John Laurie again. Isn't he? Like, and had he been bitten at that point? Yes.
He has been bitten,
right,
yes.
Yeah, I could just... He comes in, he's been bitten, although his transformation, like the effects of the poison isn't quite as fast. No, maybe it's the alcohol.
Not as instantaneous. Yeah.
Maybe they just add
maybe the bite wasn't as deep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Possibly.
Yeah,
and what I've written is that the bite of the reptile gives a human being the look of mouldy bread. No, you look like bread that's gone off.
Penicillin.
And he is basically a death's door. And once again, imposing on the wife, he basically says, you look after her. You look after him. I'm going to go and get the doctor. Strides off across the moor.
Not the doctor.
Not the doctor. Right. And then says to the doctor, you have to come and help me. And then this is all my favourite bit is he then goes,
amazing, yeah.
I can't actually help you. I'm a doctor of theology, not a medical doctor. And I've written, he's not a proper doctor. He's a fake doctor.
But then he goes, I'll come. He goes, I'll come anyway. I'm not going to be any help.
And then I just put theology
my
of all
things. Richard is a doctor, and he's a doctor of illustration.
He'd be no good here.
He can't help. What I wanted to say about Yeah, what I wanted to say about John Laurie at this point is the faces he's doing after he's been bitten are very Pertwee-esque.
Yes, he throws himself into it.
It's very Pertwee being strangled by the Nestine in Spearhead from Space.
I haven't heard of that one for a while.
Well, it's the only Doctor Who story that's filmed entirely on 16mm film.
Let me write that down.
And I would say that, therefore, it's the only one that's in real HD quality on the Blu-ray release.
Still big.
But he's doing a lot of cross-eyed and his tongue's hanging out, and it's all a bit over the top, isn't it? And then it's and then Doctor of Theology comes to have a look at him, and he's like, well, he's dead.
That's right. And I love what a salty bitch he is about everything. Oh, well, he's obviously died.
Yeah.
Well, thanks very much, you. I don't know what you expected me to do about this.
Yeah.
All right.
Doctor of Theology, whatever the fuck that is.
That's right. Oh dear! And then with that, okay, so they then store him out the back, don't they? They go out of their way to show his corpse being stored.
Well, don't they say we just leave him outside? Yeah.
We can't leave him here. And they say, okay, I'll put him outside in the yard. It's like, you can't leave a dead body in the yard. What a fox might come and eat his face or something. Yeah.
And then cut off.
So they put him in a shed, don't they?
And then after that, we're back to Tesco value internments, aren't we? Where, another fast funeral. They dump him in the ground. And then the only line that I've got here is the publican says, I'm not a doctor. I don't understand the details. And I put, nobody in this film is a doctor. No one's got any medical qualifications whatsoever.
No doctor
within 100 miles. Everyone's just guessworking.
The coroner comes once a month, and all he'll say is heart failure. And them up there, they say the Black Death. And it's like, hang on, could you not have come up with a better thing? The Black Death is the plague. He hasn't got the plague. So could you not have called it like the Purple Death or something like that, or the Red Death or the Green Death? The Green Death is a good one. And then they have this situation then where they finish the funeral and it's like, you want to come to the pub? And the guy's like, yeah, we'll have a drink now. Why not? But the wife is like, oh, I can't come in the pub because it's a pub. And I've got to go and prepare dinner. So I'm going to walk home on my own across the moor. And I said that's an obvious mistake in a film like this. Mm-hmm. Yeah, walk a mile across the moor. You know, you're going to be in trouble, aren't you? As it pans out, she doesn't get into trouble on the moor, but we're introduced to our kind of...
the only other...
It's hard to say.
Only other female...
The only other female in the film,
yes. When there's a mystery that there is a female monster.
Who
could it be?
But at that point, you hadn't seen that it was a female monster, had you? I felt that you hadn't really seen that it was male or female.
I think without knowing what's happening, you're meant to believe that it's the Man Maitland character who is the kind of South Asian man
from the Punjab.
Yeah, literally just stands there and looks at
her for a long time,
and then the music goes. So there's a lot of mention of like hot climates, primitive religions of the East.
I wrote that down.
And the subtle flavours of
Oriental food and MSG.
I've had some very unsubtle flavours in various Cardiff curry houses, to be honest. And the Spice Merchant, I had the hottest thing I've ever eaten in my life. With TV's Eve Miles, who was there as a guest.
Wow.
Who was there as a guest of the Welsh Curry House of the Year Award.
Only John could have this story. This is brilliant.
I don't know if I can tell this story.
Oh.
Come on. And she was just like, I'm just eating a curry.
Wow.
Anyway, take that bit out.
Yeah.
So, we meet Anna Franklyn, our mustachioed heroine from Jacqueline Pearce, who's got a very obvious moustache in some of these scenes, hasn't she? Where they haven't kind of powdered her properly.
She's just got very dark hair.
Yes, maybe it's an HD transfer, but she's got a really obvious moustache.
Maybe that's why they covered her up with reptilian makeup,
green makeup.
Because apparently she was told, "Oh, you got a face for movies," and she said, "I wondered why my first film I made they put loads of makeup all over me." It's because you had full on tash.
Yeah, we should do Plague of the Zombies as well, because she's very good in Plague of the Zombies. But she becomes a bit of a zombie concubine in that. And I think we should... I think that's something we should...
first film.
Zombie concubine. She's let herself into the house, which obviously wasn't locked, because Victorians don't lock their houses. And an interesting... there's loads of interesting touches in this film, which then are not totally... which are totally then not expanded upon. She's brought loads of exotic and kind of weird looking flowers, and it's like, oh, this is an interesting subtext. Like, is the father growing these? What's happening here? They don't really touch on that, do they? And it's like,
there's lots of flowers in it, though.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea that she's got all these flowers that her father is growing because he's got this kind of interest in the Far East and India, but then they just basically don't bother about that. They just go on and have, paint someone green or something. Which is, a lot of these films that we watch, I think they're always clock watching, aren't they? And it's like, we've got all these interesting ideas, but we've got to bring this in at 87 minutes. So we're not gonna have any dialogue about the exotic flowers, which is a bit of a shame, really. So then Jacqueline Pearce invites them to dinner in the big house across the mall. It's very, very cringy, weird. So they go for dinner, and then Jacqueline Pearce isn't allowed to join them because she's being punished.
Yes.
But we don't know what she's being punished for. Is she being punished for inviting them in the first place?
Probably, yeah.
And she then also says, "Do you want to come and see my menagerie of animals?" And she went, "In many ways, they're locked up." And I thought, oh, that is the most massive metaphor I've ever seen. Like, I am locked up. There's a lot of that going on in there.
Yeah. I think the subtext of the pets is that she eats them all.
Yes.
It's quite clear. It's cleverly done.
We missed the whole thing about the cat.
Oh, yeah.
Chekhov's cat. At the beginning, when we realised that the new couple had brought a kitten with them, and she wasn't going to leave that with the rest of the luggage. But that will become important later on in the film. Yes.
And when you say important,
relatively, there's a relative term.
Yeah.
So they have their the subtle flavours of the Oriental food. There's an interesting shot where you see some candles, and then there's a kind of mix to the candles burnt down, which I think is a really interesting way of them showing the fact that they've eaten, but also it's totally saved on the fact that they don't have to build a set to show them at a dining table.
Yeah.
So all they've
done food, because they realise, oh shit, where are we going to get some Oriental food from? Does anyone know what they eat in the Orient? No.
Yeah. Because in London at that point, there was probably like one Indian restaurant in the whole of London, wasn't there? So they go back, and then Jacqueline Pearce is invited down in a fetching sari to do
entertainment.
Well, yeah, it's like the after dinner entertainment, isn't it? So she brings out her sitar, and then and she starts quite slow, and then it speeds up. And what happens? Does it become too raunchy?
I got no idea.
She just starts shredding on it, like anyone.
Yeah.
Oh Christ, like Steve Vai or someone like that. Anyone who goes. Whatever his name,
or Eddie Van Halen.
No, just too much. It's like, oh, fuck's sake, get back to the rest. Oh, no one likes a long indulgent solo. Her solos are a trademark, like Nigel Tufnell.
Prog rock sitar.
Yeah.
So she's got this kind of impudent look on her face to her father, and her father becomes enraged.
Yeah.
Grabs the sitar, and like we said earlier, goes from 0 to 10, smashes the sitar to pieces, and then just tells them to fuck off home, basically.
And imagine they had to do that in one take because they couldn't afford more than one sitar.
Imagine how much that must have cost at the time.
And of course, this was made in 1966, so this is peak The Who Pete Townsend, prior to
it's quite
a book report research claims.
I did find this part really interesting because I think it was shot in 65. So you're talking literally on the cusp of George Harrison using a sitar on Rubber Soul, doing stuff with Ravi Shankar. Whoever wrote this, John Elder, I can't remember if John Elder is a pseudonym for someone else. I'm going to have to do your own research, guys. John Elder might be a pseudonym for someone else. But I think whoever wrote this, and considering, it's a B movie, they probably were given like 3 days to write this. It's quite interesting that they were looking at stuff that was going on around them, and they did incorporate that into this film at this point. I think it looks quite old and kind of fuddy-duddy and a bit weird to us now. But actually, at the time, it was quite current. And it's quite interesting in a way that they brought that stuff in. Only then for it to be smashed to pieces by Dr. Franklyn, who's just had enough, hasn't he? The music's got a bit fast for him. It's a bit like Dylan going electric. He's had enough. He smashes it to pieces and he tells them to go home, basically.
Party's over, kids.
Yeah, and when they get home, they find that the cat has gone missing. And the kind of mystery South Asian figure that we see has given the cat to Jacqueline Pearce to kind of
placate her,
calm it. Yeah, in a way, like calm it down or kind of buy her off. Yes. So that's the first time he speaks. Then in the scenes after that, he's been on screen at that point for 47 minutes. Which is what I love about Hammer films.
People stood around looking menacing, aren't
they? They wait so long for these characters to actually do anything.
And my main takeaway from this film was, I thought, okay, well, obviously,
South Asian takeaway.
Dated and all the rest of it. But what I thought was interesting here was, in many ways, this kind of illuminates this whole kind of relationship of Britain and the Empire, or what was left of Empire. As John says, this was made in the 1960s. But still, the whole vibe is someone went out to the far, to the east, to India, to Burma, to places like this, and something dark and strange has happened out there, and something dark and strange has come back. And even though it was us, the British Empire, going out there doing dreadful things, there is still in the cultural narrative this idea that something has come back from Empire, and it's terrifying. And I thought in many ways, we also saw it when we did Horror Express. That's exactly the same thing. You go out to, where's Mount Everest? Maybe you go out to the Himalayas.
Nepal.
You go out to Nepal, you go out to the Himalayas, and you bring back something terrifying. And again, it's British scientists and men of British knowledge going out there and then bringing that back with them. So that was just my big takeaway from it. I thought, it's another film where that's kind of the subtext.
From the point of view of the storyteller, it's rationalism versus the unknown, isn't it? So it's also a bit like Quatermass, with the Quatermass experiment, where they send the rocket into space and the rocket brings back the astronaut who has been infected with the organism. It's a similar idea. It's a similar trope. But I think it works quite well because it's not on the side of the aggressor here, who is the British man who has gone abroad, and I'm doing inverted commas here, folks. It's not on his side that he's gone and kind of explored and kind of exploited these regions. The fact that he's done this has actually, we find out in the end, bitten him on the arse, doesn't it? On the back of the neck.
And I wonder if now, the rise of folk horror, I wonder if that's kind of part of it, is that the horror is not somewhere far away now. The horror is here. The horror is us. And I wonder if anyone would want to do a thesis on that, a pivot from the fear of the unknown and the fear of the alien and the fear of the abroad to the realization that the horror is here, is us. Anyway.
Well, the monster in this film is basically him, isn't it?
Yes,
and
absolutely.
the way he treats everyone. The monster isn't Jacqueline Pearce. The monster is him. because he's such a twat to everyone.
Yes.
Yeah, he's an arsehole.
Long story short,
and he just
don't do theology for a degree. That was my takeaway from this. But yes, he is. So we should crack on now because we now build to the denouement when there's a lot of creeping around going on. That's why lots of people are creeping around.
Yeah, and coming in and out the same windows. And
yeah. There's some very, very, very enjoyable Gothic archetypes though, where basically our hero isn't the nominal hero. I think our hero is Michael Ripper as the pub landlord, isn't he?
Yeah.
Because he's the guy who starts off as a coward, finds himself, and then goes to the hero and suggests digging up his own brother.
Yeah. That's very Hammer, that sequence, isn't
We're
it?
going to go and dig up the corpse of your brother.
Come on, mate. He's only been dead a couple of weeks.
Yeah. So they basically go back to the pub and they find that the body of John Laurie is on a slab in the pub, which I think is an amazing scene. They look at the body and they find out there's bite marks on the back of the neck. And then he says, well, the only way we can check more is to dig up your brother. So they go and dig up the brother. And that's a brilliant scene because they've got a corpse in like a waterlogged grave.
Yeah.
It's really horrific. Yeah, the guy's rotting.
Full rain effects.
The rain effects are amazing, aren't they? I thought the rain effects were actually really, really good in this. They find the corpse. The guy can't look at his brother, obviously, because you couldn't really, could you? And then they find that he's been bitten as well. And they're like, oh, have you seen that before? And he's like, yeah, a king cobra in India. And it's like, the thrill of the foreign.
Indeed. Because the pub landlord tells us that he kind of travelled around the world during his time in the Navy.
Well, they both say, I've been all over.
Yeah, so have I. So have I, mate. So what of it? Right?
I think that they have seen those men where they don't have heads, but the faces are in their bodies. on like the edge. You know, they show them on the edge of maps. Yeah. From like the Mappa Mundi and stuff, and it's like the man with the dog's head. I think they've seen the man with the face in his torso.
They both drank too much seawater and fucked a dugong. So
they've seen mermaids.
But yeah, he says, I've seen some things that I can't explain. Which again is that whole kind of like the mystery of the unknown and all of that. Yeah.
Yes.
So they decide that I've possibly started to drift a little bit by this point on Sunday afternoon. Right? Like, why do they then go and decide that they're going to go back to the doctor's house? Is it just because they're like animals, India, cobras in India? Because my next note is that he
sneaks in the window, doesn't he?
That there's an incredible cobra fake out when he breaks into the house, trips over a footstool, and then he's brought face to face, just like Indiana Jones in Raiders of the Lost Ark, with a cobra. But then, of course, it turns out
with a stuffed cobra. Yeah.
But that's my next note.
There is a sequence where Michael Ripper watches the good Dr. Franklyn bring another wreath to another grave, because we've seen this already. And I think the intimation is there that he is starting to suspect that there is something afoot.
Yeah. And then we have a retread of the beginning, where basically he runs up the same stairs. He's again told.
Well, there's a letter is delivered that says,
"That's it.
Please come and help me." From Anna or something like that.
Yeah. Now I remember.
He goes back, and it's been delivered by Man Maitland, who is the shadowy figure in the bushes. It's not from Jacqueline Pearce. He then goes to the house. He goes up to the door, and she pops up and bites him. But he's kind of been warned by the doctor. So the bite isn't at full strength.
Yeah.
So
and that's when we see the monster for the first time.
And also, it's weird. When he is face to face with her, my note is, I thought she was going to kiss him. Weirdly. The way that they're stood together, it's kind of like the normal framing of a kiss. And then the way her face, I was like, she might have kissed him. And then, no, she bit him.
What do we think of the makeup?
It's terrible.
It is terrible, but I quite like the design.
The design is memorable. Good. But it's the only weak... For me, It's the only weak link in what is a really, actually, very precisely worked film. Because this film is absolutely shit hot in almost every department, really, except for the monster, which is a bit of a letdown, isn't it? Because it's just like, she comes up and it's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Like papier-mâché.
I also don't
papier-mâché.
I also don't find her like massive. She's like not intimidating as a presence. You know, you just think you can just leg it away from her, really.
Yeah. She comes out with like the trope that we see in many of these films that we've watched is the eyes.
Yeah.
The eyes never look very good, do they? So we've seen poached egg eyes in Midnight Express or whatever it's called. What's it called? Horror Express. So we've seen poached egg eyes in that. We've seen a lot of eyes, but her eyes are just not very good. They look like they're made by like a sixth form student for like, I don't know, Halloween or something. So yeah, she's not the best monster. I think the idea of the monster is brilliant, but the actual execution is like, oh, she doesn't look very good.
So he runs back home at this point, doesn't he?
Yes, with it turning black and foaming at the mouth. There's this weird scene where the guy is, Marn Maitland is singing to her and she's in bed writhing and he's like,
yeah. That was weird.
Creepy as fuck. Yeah. But it's like a tiny sliver of nothing, isn't it? It's like there for a second. And I was like, that's a really good idea that he's kind of like, I don't know.
He's like the snake charmer, isn't he? He can control her in some way, shape or form.
Yes,
that was the vibe that I had.
Yeah. He's a bit like the witch and she's the familiar. Yes. It's that kind of relationship, isn't it? So I thought, oh, that's good. And then they never touched on anything else again. But then we find out that Dr. Franklyn comes back. Were you going to say the same thing?
No, carry on, mate.
We find out in the only bit I think of real like horror in this film is the bit where you find out that she's shed her skin.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah,
well, we then learn.
Her father comes in and just smashes it. And it's like
his destructive rampage continues.
Again, like it's just this anger of like he's gone from 0 to 10 again. You're a country lad. You're on rats, sound rats. Smash. And I'm starting to wonder.
Do you know what animals shed their skin?
I'm starting to wonder if he needs a stick or if he just walks in the stick so he can hit things with it. Yeah.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde style, you know.
Yes. Well, very much so, actually. Yeah. At this point, I've written, the sets are so beautifully put together. They're beautifully lit. They're misted and they look so evocative and so atmospheric. And I think at this point, Hammer was still in Bray Studios. And after this, they moved to another studios and they lost that kind of atmosphere. And I think their films after this lost this kind of Hammer-esque feel, which I think you can see in the later films. They don't have the same kind of atmosphere and the same kind of, just that DNA is lost slightly. And I think this is one of the last films where you watch it and you're like, they're really careful about what they're doing here. You know, you can laugh at the bits where you see the shadow of the crew and stuff, but to all intents and purposes, they are doing a really good job here.
Along with, as Ross pointed out, the continuity with the cigar in one sequence.
Oh, I know, yeah.
The up-down cigar, each shot. The one shot he's holding it up, and then the other camera angle he's holding it down. So each time the camera cuts, he's like, go, oh no, I've got to stay away from Jimmy Savile.
If only more people took that advice.
Yeah, exactly.
So the ending, what do we think to the ending? It's a bit of a mess.
First of all, we see her kind of lair, which I find is weird. Bearing in mind they're in Cornwall, we then find out that the house has got a basement. But it's like a basement, it's like a volcano down there. There's bubbling water, there's a sulphur pit in Cornwall. Yeah. That's all a bit odd.
The famous sulphur pits of Cornwall.
And she sort of sleeps in a Hessian sack. Doesn't she?
But for the first time, they make out that she has to be kept warm at all times.
Yes.
Just for something which hasn't happened before, but they will need to know.
I don't know if if that's when she's just the snake. So she's in this weird pit with like a bubbling geyser next to her.
Which someone's going to fall in.
Yeah, there's a lot of fighting and people are shouting, and then basically Marn Maitland gets pushed into the water, doesn't he? And he's boiled alive. The kind of reveal is that the baddies who the Doctor has been investigating in Borneo
that's it,
have put some kind of curse on her. So she disappeared and then she came back and nothing was wrong with her. But then when she came back,
she has no memory.
She's no memory of where she's been, but she now turns into a snake.
Because I'd like to make a prequel film about what happens to her with that lost time.
Oh, that would be good, wouldn't it? Yeah. Imagine that. That again, there's so much material. This and Plague of the Zombies, there's so much material that you could get from these two films.
But he mentions another kind of cult as well. So to give like
leopard people somewhere.
Is that something? I reckon that was something which was in the popular imagination at the time.
I think that's like a real thing, isn't it? That's kind of been co-opted in to make it feel more realistic. I'm just looking up John Elder to see.
I've got it here. I can read it out to you.
Go on.
Go on then.
John Elder was the writing name of Anthony Frank Hines, who was the son of the founder of Hammer Film Productions.
Oh, right, okay.
He briefly joined his father's business before the war service as a pilot in the RAF. He was enthralled by the 1953 Quatermass experiment and took that to his father and said, we should do this and get the rights for that. So he did that. And then he came up with the idea of hiring country houses and shooting films in the rooms and grounds of the locations, which saved the cost of kitting out a full studio. And,
amazing.
Yeah. So he went on to write a load of different things, including The Unquenchable Thirst of Dracula.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And which one was that?
Yeah, that's the horror script, The Unquenchable Thirst of Dracula, which he wrote in 1970s for Hammer, was never filmed. Sorry.
Oh.
But it was presented as a live stage in 2015. But yeah. So he did. So he was the son of the founder of Hammer Films.
The reveal that we've had that she's kind of afraid of the cold has come kind of from nowhere and is slightly annoying. Because it's it makes nonsense of the fact that she's able, when she's Anna, to she goes to visit the cottage and stuff.
She's out at night. She's out.
Yeah.
As I put
in Cornwall.
As I put down, the cold will kill her. And I put, why are you in Cornwall? Why have you gone to
I suppose it's probably the warmest part of Britain, but at the same time.
But then her death comes from by way of a broken window.
With a slight breeze. I said she's killed like a pensioner. It's a bit breezy.
I really like the effect on her voice when that happens, because she's like, "Oh, it's cold, it's cold," but then she just lies down on the floor and is dead.
Yeah,
it's like,
that's what I said.
And then with many Hammer films, everyone gets set on fire. Everyone gets set on fire at the end.
Yeah, and they go outside, and then the credits
and they watch
start to roll.
Yeah, watch a model burn.
Yeah, not like Naomi Campbell or Kate Moss, but a model of a house.
Yeah, and it always sounds like we just really, really rush the end of.
That's how it ends.
But that's how these things end.
But that is literally, there's no dialogue. It's all the dialogue in this is the woman screaming, the wife of our hero screaming and saying, "Don't keep me in here! Don't keep me in here! Let me go! Let me go!"
She goes back for a cat. That was the bit we need. I needed to make.
Yes. So the ending is the cat survives.
Calm down, everybody. Yeah.
That's the film is called The Cat Survives. So what do we think about points?
Okay.
Relative to other points?
Yeah. I thought it was really boring, and I didn't. So I'm going to give it a 1, I'm afraid.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
It's not in my wheelhouse, I'm afraid. But
what did you give Hellraiser, which was just like watching fucking porridge fucking go wrong?
I should have had this up ready, because I knew he was going to ask me that.
Yeah, come on. I can't believe it, Cleves.
But, it's good that we can still be friends. And
this is a precision machined gothic horror masterpiece.
I just thought it was inconsequential.
Ooh.
Hellraiser.
So what did you give Hellraiser, which is just the most boring, tawdry piece of shit I've ever seen?
I gave that
my God. For fuck's sake. Just like, because I've had a few glasses of wine now, I really want to let rip, and I'm not going to.
you ungraded Hellraiser, so is the only one you...
What did I didn't
grade.
Even give it a grade.
It's the only one you would refuse to give any marks to. Mainly because you didn't watch it all, I imagine.
No, I couldn't. It was so boring. I couldn't watch it. It's just like, fat people like kinky sex.
And that's up there with Dr. Phibes. You say that's what it was worse than Dr. Phibes, Ross.
Dr. Phibes. I think.
No, it wasn't as bad as Dr. Phibes, so I'm going to give it a 2. Okay.
Yeah.
I could feasibly watch the Reptile again. I would never ever watch Dr. Phibes again.
I think the Reptile is a precision machined. It's just got everything for me. It's Victoriana. It's Hammer. There's a mystery. There's gothic. There's people being dug up.
Modern. I prefer modern, as in the 70s Hammer films.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's just,
but you hated Satanic Rites.
I didn't hate it.
Boring. London looks so boring. It's so grey. Everything looks dirty.
It wasn't as good as Dracula AD 1972.
Well, no, because that's got Caroline Munro in.
Yeah.
Let's cut to the chase here.
What did you think, James?
I would give it a 2 as well, because sorry, John, sorry, but for me, it's Ross say it's not his wheelhouse. For me, I didn't find it like, horror is not, even though I do this podcast, horror is not my favorite genre by any means. And when I was watching it, I was entertained by it, but I wasn't horrified. And I thought there were some really interesting ideas in it. As we've discussed. There's some really interesting stuff about, say, like horror and empire and all the rest of it that I thought were really good. And there was some, we don't like strangers around these parts. I loved all that sort of stuff. Yeah. But I can't say, Christ, that was terrifying, or, I've been thinking about it nonstop. It wasn't one of those for me. So it wasn't a -1. It's not like minus points like when we did the rats. When I didn't feel like the -1s, and when I feel like I've wasted my time watching this. I've got fewer summers ahead of me than I've got behind me now in my life. And that's how I start judging things up. I'm like, is this a waste of my time? I did not feel it was a waste of my time, but I didn't think it was terrifying either. So 2.
It was good for Sunday afternoon.
Yes.
I think it's a lovely comfort blanket of comforting familiarity where the hero is a pub landlord in Cornwall with a stuck-on beard. And for that, I'm going to give it 80.
Great.
80, you can't give it 80.
Why not?
80 out of 10.
God.
What's my highest score, Cleves?
I'm being some mockery of it. Your highest score is... You've given a couple of 5, or quite a few 5s, actually.
Have I?
Yeah, you gave Sapphire and Steel a 5.
I enjoyed it more than that.
You gave Stone Tape a 5.
I enjoyed it more than that.
Satanic Rites of Dracula a 5.
It's on that.
And you gave, what was that? Dead of Night a 5, and The Omen a 5. And
but that's good. That's good. I like that.
Screaming a 5.
But I like that. I like that John is the most passionate. Of these that we provide.
That's very positive
that's
about
good.
this.
There we go. Give it a 5. There we go. I'm going to let you have it.
I'm going to say I'm going to give it a 5, but it's a 5-star.
Okay.
Nice.
Right. What are you saying, fucking shit?
We're now on General Witchfinders. It's time for something horrific, where this week or this month we guess or decide something that we've read this week which is horrific.
There we go. Brilliant.
Have we got anything to share, guys?
And first,
go on then, James.
I watched a film that we've discussed on a I said, I think that would be really good. I watched the movie Censor.
Oh, good.
Right. Well, you say good.
Censor.
That's a modern film, James, isn't it?
Yes, and it's all about the video nasties of the 1980s and the moral panic in Great Britain that accompanied them. Now, on paper, as with so many of the things you look at on General Witchfinders, like on paper, you just go, that's an amazing idea. That's really, really good.
Yeah,
so the brief overview is that there's a woman and she's a film censor during the early 1980s. It looks really nice in 80s. There's a nice Ford Granada that I think you'd appreciate, John. Early 80s.
Lovely.
Yeah. And she's a film censor. And we find out that when she was younger, she was out playing in the woods with her sister, and her sister vanished and was never found. And the film starts off with the parents saying, we've had to declare her dead. And, you've got to get over this. But then in the process of her job, she starts to become obsessed that one of the women who's appearing in a British kind of very kind of low budget, high gore horror movie is her sister. And right, so straight away the pitch is like, that's brilliant. What a fantastic pitch that is. But then, unfortunately,
reminds me slightly of Get Carter.
In a way, yes, I see exactly.
Where the girl in the porno film is his niece or something.
Yeah.
Go on,
but
James.
what I would say is that it doesn't quite work, unfortunately, because it's very low budget. So they do a lot with it, but there's a number of things that they do that you just like, no. Like they make out that someone has killed.
No.
Yeah, that someone's killed his entire family based after watching a video nasty that she's passed. And then she becomes the target for like the tabloids. I'm like, no, even at the height of the 80s, nobody knew who any censor was. Do you know what I mean? And she's got like the press after her, which I know is supposed to...
I thought you were going to say the Taliban.
And the Taliban, maybe. But you kind of think, I see, this is all supposed to be adding to her declining mental state. But you're like, no, there's no way she'd be that well known. And at one point on the front, because they obviously can't use the Sun or the Mirror, so they've got like a really rubbish fake tabloid. And it's like, she goes into a video shop and says, I want this banned video, because she thinks it's got her sister in it. And the guy's like, I'm not sure I can give it to you. I know who you are. Because it's like, come on. Right. And then she's like, no, come on, I want to see it. And then later on, you see that a paparazzi was waiting outside the video shop. And on the front page of a national newspaper, see Ross is shaking his head. It's like, she's renting the very video she's banned. Yeah, you see, you guys, and you just kind of go, no. And then
all the other people
towards the end, it becomes like an 80s, video nasty with like the excessive gore and all the rest of it. So I get that it's supposed to be that pastiche, but because it's so bad and so cheap, I know they tried to make it like that. You're just kind of taken out of it straight away. And the ending is quite clever. I don't want to ruin it just in case anybody wants to watch it. But you do kind of go, I see what they've done there. But how they got to that conclusion could have been done in a far more sophisticated and far more kind of troubling. Well, in the same way that I've said how much I love The Lighthouse and what the thing that I love about that movie is you go, well, has Robert Pattinson gone mad? And, they could have done the whole is what you're seeing real in a much, much better way.
Yes.
And so I thought the one thing that they could have done, especially now, especially looking back to the 80s, is I think she should have gone, well, I want to find out more about this actress. And then when she goes into what is ostensibly the BBFC's archives, I would have had it that the films are gone. Whereas now it'd be easy to go onto IMDb and find things out. But I thought, that'd be quite good. The whole, well, what do you mean? No. We've got no record of this film. How have you heard about it? Just quite easy, disconcerting things they could have done. They opted not to do. So it, at the end of it, I was a bit like, oh man, it was kind of like interesting to watch, but I'm pleased I didn't pay any money to watch it. So that's my update on Censor, seeing that I highlighted it a few episodes back.
I'll probably end up paying 14 quid to buy it or something ridiculous.
No, don't do that. Trust me, don't do that.
John, you got something?
Well, I'm reading some ghost stories at the moment. But the main things that I've been watching are the M.R. James adaptations that are being repeated weekly on BBC 4. So that's the 1970s kind of BBC productions have been on every Monday recently on BBC4, so they should be on the iPlayer as we speak. I know that tonight, as we speak, The Ash Tree was on. Lost Hearts has been on. Warning to the Curious has been on. I'm not sure what other ones they'll repeat. Well,
hopefully the other ones we are thinking of watching for Christmas will be on there soon as well. Then, so that'll be
I think the Signalman might be on there, yes, which I've read the story and I've watched the BBC adaptation. I think the adaptation by the BBC, I prefer to Dickens' original, to stick my neck out there. Lawrence Gordon Clark, or is it Gordon Lawrence Clark, was the director. So those are really good.
But more on that coming up. Hopefully,
more on that as we speak.
Two things.
Yep.
One, Talking Pictures TV, which is John's favourite TV channel, would you say? I'm constantly frustrated because I can't watch any of that because I don't have any cable or brief preview or anything like that.
It's on Virgin.
But I don't have that. I only stream television.
What have you got then?
I got an Apple TV. I just iPlayer and Amazon and all that kind of stuff. However, in December they are going to be launching a streaming service, so you'll be able to. I'll be able to watch the old films on Talking Pictures TV when that gets up and going. So I'm looking forward to that. But you have to register your interest, so go to their website to do that if you want to do it. But secondly, I've got this, which is the Dracula Files, which is
look at that.
From there was a comic which is ringing some bells to me. It was in 1984 a comic called Scream, which I think only lasted for like 15 issues or something like that. And they had this story called The Dracula Files, which is like an up-to-date, at the time, retelling of Dracula, where he's...
Are there any punk rockers in it?
Yeah, there's some or a biker gang. But basically, he's come over from Romania, pretending to be
taking all our jobs,
a defector from beyond the Iron Curtain, and now he goes to like this safe house and he starts killing everyone in the safe house, and then basically this KGB agent who knows who Dracula is, he comes into the country to try and kill Dracula as well.
Is that Arnie? Like, is it Raw Deal? The Red
Heat or something like that.
Is it Red Heat? Cocaine on,
with the fake leg.
Yeah, but it's great. It's great. What I love about it is it's really gruesome, kind of quite adult, black and white illustrations. But everyone is But everyone's talking in a very childish way, and everyone is describing everything they do. A giant bat? Ah, it's growing in size. Keep away. That's the Asian.
That's what she said. Sorry.
A fearful shape rose to its full height. You will raise no alarm this day. Instead, you will become my slave. No! The gleaming white fangs closed in, and soon they will be blood red. Yes, very good.
Wow.
I listen to a lot of ghostly dramas on BBC Sounds.
And none was as good as that.
No, but the kind of what do you call it when the dialogue kind of gives away what the story
it's just
is
very
happening?
The
suspension of disbelief. It pulls you out.
No. It's like exposition. Yeah, the exposition on some of them is so awful, and it's like, James, why are you holding that massive knife? And why are you pointing it towards my heart and stuff like that? And it's like, there must be better ways of doing it than the ways that they do it.
Well, in the comic, you can see what they're doing. You don't need them to say what they're doing. I'm holding the steak and I'm plunging it into him. It's just like...
I felt the same with the BBC, very heavily advertised. It's very on TV as well. Said, you want to download our thing. So basically, Judgment at Nuremberg. And I thought, yes, this is bang. I will listen to this.
I didn't know it was going to be dramatized.
Yes, and then straight away, episode number 1. Hey, what you doing over there, Dave? I'm just relaxing for 5 minutes after we've just defeated Nazi Germany. And I was like, no, off. It
gets better. It does get better. It's awful at the beginning.
Yeah. Uncanny.
That's the other good one, yeah. Well, the couple I heard were good. One. No, not for you, Ross.
Well,
I thought you loved that shit.
it leads on from the Battersea Poltergeist, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it's kind of...
I'll go back and give it another go.
It teeters on the edge of being believably kind of real. But some of the performances let it down.
Yeah. And I don't like it when he goes, I've just had to go outside now.
Yeah.
And just put some...
Yeah.
We'll get a little bit of heart,
Yes.
That's
the bits for me that make it less believable because you don't get that in a documentary.
No.
So the last one I listened to, he's like, I just had to go outside and make a cup of tea because we both got so
freaked out,
hot under the collar or something. And it's like, no one says that. I don't remember Roger Cook saying that in the Cook Report when his Reliant Scimitar caught fire.
After being beaten up by a dodgy second-hand car salesman.
He didn't go and make a cup of tea.
But he's got a play coming out of the West End, hasn't he?
What's a cook?
The guy that does it.
No, not
I'd love to see that.
Cook Report the musical.
Why won't you face your customers, Mr. Barnes? Why won't... There's no good slamming your door in my face. These people are owed money. He's then beaten up by some East London hard man. Amazing.
Amazing. So anyway, what we've come up with there is better than uncanny. So Cook Report the musical
coming to the West End.
Yeah, we used the money from the haunted changing rooms.
Yes, Barrett.
It's a bit like when Brass Eye did. Was it Brass Eye that did Peter Sutcliffe the musical?
Yeah.
Oh dear me.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been listening to that, and it's kind of. I'd say it was engaging rather than really brilliant because there's parts of it that I don't find totally believable, and because of the way that it's pitched. I think it has to be a bit like Ghostwatch. It has to be absolutely spot on, and it's not absolutely spot on because there are the bits where he's like, "Oh yeah, Mavis and I, she got a bit upset, so I've just come out to put the kettle on." You don't have those bits in a proper. Yeah. So otherwise, there are other bits and pieces on the BBC Sounds app which are supernatural. But I do find the app in general, the interface is very difficult to use.
Yeah, it's hard to find. It's almost as bad as Amazon Prime.
It's awful. The search is awful, isn't it?
But not as bad as ITV Hub.
BritBox, man. BritBox, you know stuff's on there. I've seen Sherlock Holmes on it before. How the fuck do I find it, apart from having to know exactly what I'm looking for and search for it, The
other day, I typed in The Seeds of Death, as in Doctor Who, The Seeds of Death on BritBox, knowing it was on there. The Seeds of Death doesn't bring up anything, but if you search within Doctor Who, season 14 or whatever it is, there it is. What the fuck?
You should be able to navigate to the stuff you're looking for without knowing what it's called, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Well, that's the idea of research, isn't it? And I think that's the problem with the entire internet, that you don't stumble across things that you don't want to find or you don't expect to find.
The algorithm is ruining our lives. Yeah.
The joy of exploration used to be how you would find interesting things when we were kids.
Absolutely.
You would go to the library and you'd see a book on Iggy Pop and you'd be like, what's this guy doing? Why has he got see-through trousers on?
Why is he covering himself in peanut butter? Yeah.
And what's he doing in the library? I'm trying to read this book on Iggy Pop.
Hey. And nowadays you don't find Iggy Pop because it's like, look at all these, like on Instagram, all it shows me is different hairstyles for girls in like California. It's like, I've never looked at these fucking hairstyles. I don't give a flying fuck about fucking feather cuts in San Francisco.
So next time on the General Witchfinders, we will be watching the penultimate.
That just made me think of you. I've been watching at the bottom of Dad's Army and all the other ones as they.
Since you're lonely,
feeling the air stew. Oh, Benjuria, come over here, and man is what you do. If you got the blues, I got some news. Join in the fun and
what about you, Yerang, my lord? We're going to have to find the music for Yerang, my lord, as well, aren't we?
That's Bob Monkhouse.
That was sung by Bob Monkhouse, wasn't it? Yes. We're going to have to find that.
In every house again.
Well, you know what's going to be. You know. So it is the penultimate feature film by Alfred Hitchcock, where he returned to the UK to make Frenzy.
Cool.
In 1972.
Is it his penultimate film?
Apparently so. It's the penultimate feature film of his extensive career, according to
someone else.
Wikipedia.
Oh, really?
I'm pleased because it'll give me a chance to talk about the 3 investigators as well.
There we go. Yeah,
which I'm very excited about.
What's the 3 investigators?
Oh,
wait and see.
Look at this, wait and see. Is this our first cliffhanger? Right. There we are. Well done, everyone.
He's having a fit. Yes, nice one, everybody.
I thought that was EastEnders.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, everyone, or both of you, for listening.
Yes.
Until next time. Thank you, Italy, and our cousins in the United States. Until next time, take care, everyone.
Love, light, and peace.
Happy day.
You have been listening to The General Witchfinders. Support the show and continue the conversation at patreon.com/General Witchfinders. Subscribe and spread the word at generalwitchfinders.com. Farewell, and don't have nightmares.
From Mayfair to Park Lane, you will hear the same refrain in every house again.
You rang me, Lord.
Stepping out on the town, the social world goes round and round. The rich are up, the poor are down.
You rang me, Lord.
The Bunny Hug at the Shim Sham Club, the Charleston at the Ritz, and at the Truck do the turkey trot. They give Aunt Maud 1,000 fits. Saucy flappers in plush hats, natty chappies in white spats. The upper set is going back.
You rang me, Lord.
So what are you eating there to help the toothache?
Whisper
Lovely.
Bar. There we go.
Quality.
Rubbing
Good choice.
No, not Whisper Bar, Whisper Bites. I think they should... Oh, no. They're called Whisper Bites, but they're actually called Bits of Whisper. I think Whisper Bites is a better name. Got a... for some reason, there's a shower cap in here. Should I do this episode in a shower cap?
I think we should, yeah. Very good.
Okay.
We'll have to take a picture of this for the...
I know.
posterity.
Quite hard to put on over headphones. There we are.
Watching people get gunged and Wile E. Coyote are the only things I've ever seen my dad laugh at.
I saw some people get gunged on Antiques Road Trip the other day, and it brought back fond memories.
What was it, like an antique gunge booth or something?
No, it was some people who I think had presented... Kitty wants to come in this room. She's tamping that I'm in here.
Kitty's the ghost, everyone.
It was Antiques Road Trip with people who I think who had presented Blue Peter, recent presenters. So, you know, people we haven't heard of, basically.
Well, I don't know. I'm a big Blue Peter fan.
It's a guy with a big afro and a guy who I didn't recognise at all, who I think was on Strictly. But I think they had a bet. Whoever lost would get gunged. And then someone got gunged. And I was like, God, remember, everyone used to get gunged. It was normally TV,
Ed the Duck and Andy Peters. People voting which of those two were going to get gunged.
Have they ever outed who actually controlled Ed the Duck or Gordon T. Gopher?
No, but they were both on the Children Need Puppets song they did. we seen
Were
that?
they?
and Wilson, the glove, the hand.
Wilson the butler. Do you remember when Ed the Duck went from a squeaky voice to a duck call?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't remember that.
He started off with a bit of a squeak and then he went to like a more of a duck sound.
Yeah. They also had Bungle doing a guitar solo.
But Bungle's ITV. How did they get away with that?
It was just all the famous. There was Thunderbirds there as well.
I hate it when they do
but
that.
all the way through, Blobby's trying to break into the studio.
Oh, that's what you need.
Bastard. I tell you what I hate is now when Hell puts This Morning on and it shows TVC and it's like, why is an ITV program coming out of TVC? It just fucks with my brain.
I don't know what any of that meant.
You know what TVC? Television Centre.
Oh, okay. Oh,
and it's like, why is Television Centre an ITV program? It's freakish.
Well, I thought Television Centre was like flats now or something.
No, it's
not all
there's
of it.
flats there, but it is it's still a studio. And now it's ITV, and it's like, that is just insane, isn't it? It's like,
do you remember when those anti-vax idiots tried to lay siege to the BBC and basically ended up trying to basically attack Philip Schofield?
Yeah, but it was a building. It was a building that the BBC hadn't been in for like 30 years or something. It's amazing. It's like, it's basically,
is that where they got Parky bricked up?
Yeah,
after the end of
Ghostwatch. Yeah.
Because I've read that
it's in a Dibbit box.
I read the sequel to Ghostwatch. It's not very good, but they do say that whenever you see Sarah Green afterwards, that is a lookalike. It's a lookalike imposter.
Which is, of course, that's one of my favourite things of all time.
Yeah.
Or I was about to say, one of my favourite harmless conspiracy theories is that it's that Avril Lavigne died, and they replaced Avril Lavigne with a fake Avril Lavigne in inverted commas.
I've heard that one, so that's a good one, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a few. Jimi Hendrix is Morgan Freeman. That's one I've seen as well. True story.
Sense.
And it's like, there's two pictures of them together, and it's like, the subtext of what you're saying is that you are racist and you don't know. Because what you're basically saying is that two black men look similar and you don't realise that you're being racist. I was going to say that seeing Philip Schofield presenting This Morning in TVC is like Joe Biden being in the Kremlin. It's just wrong, isn't it?
It's wrong.
He wouldn't rule from the Kremlin. Oh, God. Yes.
Well, let's do it. They're warmed up now, boys. Although I unfortunately missed the beginning of us talking about Noel Edmonds, which is a shame. It wasn't recorded.
Do you want me to talk about Noel Edmonds again?
No, that's okay. We can do it.
He's got a collection of GT40s and he drives. We used to have. I don't know if he has now, but he used to drive them around naked in his mansion or wherever, in the grounds of his mansion.
How do you know this?
I think he said it in an interview once. Don't forget, he used to follow me on Twitter when he had a number of weird clone radio stations,
the
didn't
cat
he?
one,
Yeah.
the cat fancy one.
Yeah.
People laughing was one of them, just on loop.
There was one that was just him slagging off TV
critics.
reviewers. Yeah. Alison Pearson, if you're listening, I'm going to fucking kill you.
Well, of course, he came up with the idea he put all of his money into video conferencing because he thought that was going to be the future, and he was just too soon. Too soon.
He was too early, but it's true now, isn't it?
And it is
true now.
He is subject to one of my favourite things ever on that episode of Brass Eye where they make out that he's gone mad.
Yes.
And he's like flying around in
25
helicopter.
years.
And they're just interviewing loads of celebrities going, have you heard about the news about Noel Edmonds? And they're like unknowing celebrities in the 90s. No. Oh, he's killed some people. What? One of them is like,
but of course he actually had.
And of course one of the celebrities that responds is our late, now former friend John Chalice.
I was watching The Seeds of Death, Doctor Who, the other day.
Yeah.
Who turns up in that?
Chalice.
John Chalice.
Yeah.
Boise. Is it Boise? Did he play?
Yeah.
Pre-Boise.
Yeah.
But post
Awesome.
apocalyptic.
Right, hang on. Let me get the scripts up then. Hold on.
Oh, shitting myself. I fill my pants every time. I fill my pants every time. Oh, shitting myself. I fill my pants every time. I fill my pants every time. OB idea. Parky gravitas. British doubt. Rockets and stuff. Human pulp. OB idea. Human pulp. Parky human pulp. Gravitas. Pulp. Stuff. Pulp. Creeping around like a fucking creeping Jesus. Shoot to kill! Shoot to kill! Human pulp. Parky. Shoot to kill! Shoot to kill! Parky. Shoot to kill! Shoot to kill!
As they say in swimming pools, heavy petting. Heavy petting. Don't take bribes.
Turn your back on psychedelia! Shoot to kill! Shoot to kill! Turn your back on psychedelia! Shoot to kill! Shoot to kill! Fat people like kinky sex. Turn your back on psychedelia! Shoot to kill! Shoot to kill! I love changing rooms. Love, light and peace.
Happy day.